Every small workshop has a few things in common. Limited space, tools everywhere, and a ceiling doing absolutely nothing. Today we're fixing both, and it's not going to cost us a penny. You're not going to want to miss this because there's 3 builds, all made from leftover scrap wood, all doable, no matter your level. So let's start making. So the first one today is not only the easiest, but it's also probably the one that works for the most people. And it revolves around this. It's a push stick. And these 4 are the ones that I use the most. My aim here is to solve the biggest problem that woodworkers have with push sticks. And that problem is incredibly simple. You get set up to make a cut. You've got your fence in line, you've got the blade at the right height, you've got a push stick on the side of the table, and then you get halfway through the cut and you reach for your push stick, and it never seems to be in the right place at the right time. So what we're going to make today is a really simple scrap wood build that is going to keep your push sticks exactly where you need them, when you need them. And as most people make their own, usually from a piece of plywood, 3/4 inch or 1/2 inch, that's what we're going to focus on to start with. But just in case you've got something a little bit more complicated like this, I'll also show you what I've come up with for that. But for now, let's focus on these. And this will work for anything you've made yourself. So this is how simple this gets. 3/4 inch ply. I'm just going to countersink and screw mine into a T-shape. And then I've just got a little block of hardwood. 8mm thick, 30mm wide, give or take, it doesn't really matter. All we're going to do once we put all this together is give it a sand, and this is just going to be attached on the bottom. You can do it as simply as just screwing it on. Me, I'm going to sink mine in a little bit, just so it looks a bit fancy. Let me show you. As you can see, I haven't even really bothered to set it in too tight because, to be honest, it's just a workshop piece and I'm gonna not even bother gluing it. I'm just gonna send 2 screws in to hold it tight, and that's gonna do for this bit because I wanna move on to the next bit. But before I screw it, we have to make a few holes in our push sticks. Let's do that first. So with a forcing bit, roughly the same width as the bar, I'm just going to rough out the hole that we've made. I've rounded the block off a little bit so it goes through nicely, because you want it to be snug, but you don't want it to be rattling around too much. Next, do it for your other push stick, because this will hold 2. Now you can go as far as you want with this cross pattern, but basically what it does is it holds the push stick in place. So what I've done is I've put a groove here, so the stick locks into it, just so it's not going to wobble off whatever you attach it to. But here's the problem. It will make it move around a little bit more. So make your choice. Have it solid with no groove. Probably going to be a bit more sturdy. But where mine's going to be, I think I'm going to need the groove. Let me show you my idea for this and why I think this is pretty useful. The fact is, when you're stood at your table saw, you need your push stick somewhere in this vicinity. So that in the eventuality that you've got your cut halfway through and suddenly you need to reach for it, most people would be reaching here if they're right-handed, but if it's not there, you need to know where it is. So, first place that you could put this is directly on top of your fence. You can either double-sided tape it or you could put some strong magnets in it. That way, your push stick is always easy to access. And I know, there's many other ways you could do this, like the clip that is already on there for the push stick you got with the table saw. But how many people still use the push stick that they got with the table saw? You could put magnets directly into your push stick so that it stays on the fence itself. Let me show you one more idea, plus what I'm going to do with it. Now it's a little bit awkward down here on the floor, but this is the cart that holds my table saw. So down here, kind of by my knees, I've got some blocks of wood. Now if you're not going to walk into it, this is a great place to mount somewhere that you can easily reach your push stick. So you can really easily screw it anywhere onto the side of your workbench and then just take the stick off the clip whenever you want to use it. You could even have it on your French cleat wall if it's close enough, because muscle memory will always show you where to go. But I got one more idea. See, what I've chosen to do is use some of the space up here, because in a small workshop you've got to be as space efficient as you possibly can. But ergonomically, I'm here at the table saw, I'm pushing a piece through, there should be a push stick ready on the table saw. In fact, I should have grabbed it from here to start with. But if for any reason I need it and it's not there, I can just reach up and grab another one. Small caveat. There are risks involved with taking your eyes off the table saw mid-cut, so make your own choices depending on how you feel. You see, in a perfect world, my plan is to always have a push stick here ready, and then to store it up here when it's not in use. But in a pinch, I feel safer reaching up here while never taking my eyes off the cut than I do getting to mid-cut, seeing I haven't got a push stick and not using one at all to finish the cut. As for these bigger ones, I can't exactly have them hanging off because I'm going to hit my head on them a lot. But these are very different to these because these are more likely to get lost and need to be grabbed. This I use for a very specific purpose. I use this generally speaking when I'm putting a decent sized piece of wood through, large panel of plywood for instance, and I need to be a bit further away and I want a nice big contact on the bottom. This is far more thought through, so these don't have to be at arm's reach exactly when I need them, but they do need to be stored away somewhere clever. Well, for these you need to come down lower, down to the messy area of the YouTube workshop, the bit that doesn't always get shown. Whenever we make our workbenches, generally speaking, we're ending up with these small alcoves where we've fitted wood from the inside of the legs of the table, and there's not a lot you can do with it apart from put thinner things in it. You can see on the main workbench I've got very narrow shelves that I've used on this one, and I just use them for notepads, cloths, a few of these sanding mouses and my calipers. They're really useful, but they do have their limits because of the depth. One great thing about them though is that these push sticks sit in them nearly perfectly, and when you're stood up at the table saw, it's very easy just to reach round and grab them by the long handle and start using them. But this isn't the side that I've put them in, because this is where I keep my normal paddles and the odd featherboard that I just don't use. The reason I've shown it you here is because on the other side, well, it's a lot harder to get in, and I'm going to show you that with B-roll. But what I've done is I've sectioned off the shelf, made it nice and tight, and then I can put these and all the adjustments right down the side by my dominant hand, so they're really easy to get to whenever I need them. And I know in many ways I'm not setting the world alight, but this whole build took about 20 minutes. It was a workshop win on a day I needed it, and I keep banging on about this, but to have the satisfaction of making something for your workshop that doesn't take long, doesn't cost you anything, I think that's a bigger win than some of the bigger builds we end up trying to do. But we're going to get straight onto the second build, which is equally as quick and equally as useful. I think you're going to like it. Out of sight and out of mind is not what we want for this very quick last build. I don't know if you've noticed, but since the start of this video, I've not been wearing this. And the reason for that is because, well, I couldn't find it. And in the end, I found it covered in dust at the bottom of a pile of wood. I'd put it down and then I'd put stuff on top of it until it was completely covered. So if you can relate to this in any way, then it might be worth spending the next hour making this for yourself. And one thing I've come up with is I think it might have a second use as well, which is pretty cool. And the beauty of it is I don't have to show you too much of the making because all it is a box. But I've just made plywood with a rebate on the bottom of each piece, and then the two top pieces rebated. And it really doesn't even need to be all that neat. All it needs to do is fit your mask in it. So you just glue that together, and then once the sides are glued, you can have a rebate all the way around the back. You can sink in another 3/4 inch piece of ply that'll sit in the rebates. So that's it. So simple. So I've got a box, trimmed it, I've sanded it. It's got a back, but it's going to need a front lid. And the lid needs to overhang the top by, I don't know, 12 mil, let's say, a sheet of this. So I'm just going to take a measurement from the box with both bits in there, snug, and then I can cut the lid from that. Then I'll flip my board around and I'll use the box plus the lid again to get the next measurement. So I don't need to worry about tape measure. So the next bit on this is going to be really simple, but line up one corner bottom left of the box so it's flush. Leave the overhang on the top because we're going to attach the batten to that. And then leave the overhang on the right if you're right-handed, because that's the way this door is going to open. And what I'm going to do is just tape this shut, because we're going to put 2 hinges on this. Lay your hinges out so the barrel is along the groove, and importantly, so that 2 of your holes go into the meat right in the middle of that door. And now you can either pilot drill the other ones because you've got a bit more depth, or use one of these self-centering counter bits, but don't go too deep, especially if you're only using small screws. and then give it a test. I'm just going to use magnets to keep this door closed, and then, well, we're pretty much done. Now for this, do not get the polarity wrong. Then give it a test. Remember the batten we cut? I'm going to use quick curing wood glue for strength, and then I'm just going to use CA glue to give it that initial grab, and so it acts like a clamp. The reason I've done that is that this protects the seam. If you look at the top of this, the dust collects here, but it doesn't collect over the seam. So when you open it, you're opening it and you should have this width of clean wood. So you're just not dragging a load of dust into a box that you don't want dust in, because this is now ready to go on your wall. Drill some holes and screw it, or do what I'm going to do and put a French cleat on it. Goes on the cleat. As you can see, I've made two because not only do I have a dust mask, I also have one that's pretty good for fumes. And this is for two reasons. You'll always know where they are, but more than that, if you leave these out the whole time, they get covered in dust, not just on the outside, but on the inside. And that's probably the last place that you're going to want dust. So this, with the little lip, with the door, is just going to stop any dust getting in. And I promised you a second use for these. There are two jobs that you do a lot in a workshop that you cannot do simultaneously. I'll show you. When it's dusty, you put your mask on, and when your mask is on, you can't drink. But when it's dusty about, the last place you want to leave your drink is on your workbench. So, while your mask is on your face, your cup of tea or coffee is safe in the box. When you come to put it away, cheers. Yeah, that's cold. That box took way longer than I thought to make. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is a very quick workshop win. And when it comes to quick jobs, what's better than just doing a little bit of tool storage? And what needs storing more than clamps? And for this one, I'm not talking about F-style clamps, because these do a good job. We're not touching those today. What we're dealing with are longer clamps. And these can be parallel clamps, or, like in my case, they could be sash clamps. The solution I'm going to show you is going to work for both. You've just got to adapt it slightly. What I didn't show you there was that I've actually got some that are really quite long. And the problem I found is if I store them on the back wall, they take up the entire length of the wall. And sure, you can have multiple of them coming out, but then they're banging around at the bottom and you do use a lot of space. You could put them sideways, but then most people up high here have cabinets, wood stores, or ducting for their dust extraction. So the solution I've come up with is for those of you that have got a tiny workspace and you want to make the most of every single inch. And the one place you may not have considered is up there. Look above you, and in a regular workshop with a slanting roof, less so on the pitched roofs, there's as much storage space up there as there is on one of your walls. You've just got to think outside the box of how you use it. So let's make a quick scrap wood solution for our clamp storage issues. I'll say that fast 3 times. So the first thing you need to do is map out how you're going to store these. You could have them all in a row, like this, or like I've just tried to do, you could have one on top of the other. But actually this way takes up less room and less height than doing it the other way. Well, now we need to figure out how to trap them up there. I think I've got an idea. Let's get some scrap wood. This looks a little bit thrown together because, well, it is. I just wanted to map this out to see how long I needed everything. And then these are going to be my way of housing everything. So I'm just going to cut all this to size and then I'll show you exactly, well, how I'm going to do it, okay? So I'm just going to remove these 4 spots because I don't like the idea of just screwing straight through these. I'm going to make a little groove to house them. So using this offcut, I can check that the table saw blade is not going to go all the way through, that it's around halfway up, and that basically accounts for the base of the sled. And now I can use this kerf line that the sled cuts with my markings and an offcut to make sure I get these relatively tight. So believe it or not, we're nearly there. I just need to make sure that when these are in and then they're glued and I screw through the back, they're not going to split. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 4 into place like this, and then so they don't move, I'm just going to put the other one on top so I can then screw through this one and everything will be held into place because it's nicely sandwiched. And so now the moment of truth. Now I haven't spread these out properly because, to be honest, the short ones will have 2, the long ones will have 3, but I just want to see if I've got my spacing right. That's worked pretty well. And I have to say, I think that's going to hold them up on the ceiling. So let's go and find some studs and get these secured. And then we'll see if they actually work. Oh, I have just realised that I've used the spacer one on the bit that's already raised because of these. Before we give these a test, I've just put the dowel with a little, it's like a xylophone drumstick, right? Anyway, it's just so I can grab it. See if we can get these clamps up here. So near ones first, and the near ones just go through 2, like that. Oh, I didn't bring the other pin. Oh, that was close. Right. Oh, what a wally. You can't see what I've done there. This is the one padded out. So instead of putting it on the middle, where I was supposed to, I put it on the other button. What a wally. Give me a sec. And just like that. That's better. Last set. As you can see, that was wasted space before, right there. And it doesn't affect me getting to anything else. Even the light is unaffected, as is the fuse box, everything. Now I could have made that look a lot easier for you. I could have made it look really, really simple, but I do like to be honest about these things. I like to show mistakes. I like to show things from a more human standpoint. At the end of the day, if you're going for a workshop win, you're gonna miss sometimes, or you're gonna miss in the middle, but if you keep going, you might get something pretty cool. And from here, they take up so little space, you can hardly see them. So if you need a win, just a little bit of time in the workshop, try one of these 3 super easy builds. And I can't believe we have to start saying this again, but if this video has been useful or entertaining, please click the like and the hype button. And as always, a huge thank you to my Patreons for your support on all of this. If you didn't know, there's not just paid member videos over on Patreon, there's free ones too. All behind the scenes and some little builds, tips and tricks. So if you head over to Patreon or you click on one of these, I'll see you over there. Thanks a lot for watching.